The city, which played such an important part in winning the war at sea, got down to some serious celebrating over the weekend.
I know I'm not. Well, suit yourselves.
Food may have been rationed in the war years, but there was no shortage of corn in the comedy.
Simple boys of Panto, they were built for size, a pair of flashing eyes, some of them to see them, and looking on the
100,000 people flooded the Hoe to enjoy the spectacular view. Scores of small boats joined warships, sailing craft and cruise liners in the Sound. And there were hours of free entertainment laid on as well, with hundreds of Plymouthans, young and old, taking part in a pageant of peace and hope for the future called Out of the Rubble. The event evoked that spirit of community which was so much a mark of the wartime years, and the cast took the huge crowds with them as they retrod the city's path from war to peace. The entertainers had to fight the furore from the funfair, which gave some an even more elevated view. The statue of Sir Francis Drake looked out across the Sound as a reminder of the threat we once rebuffed from the Spanish. His gaze on VE Day fell upon the sail training ship for the disabled, the Jubilee Trust's Lord Nelson, named in tribute to the man who repulsed French attempts to subjugate this island nation. The square rigger led a flotilla of small boats in an armada of admiration for the heroes of World War II. It was the QE2's first visit to Plymouth, part of a special VE Day commemoration cruise.
Staff Captain, Bridge. For your information, boat 11 approaching starboard side has the inaugural function people.
Many of the passengers were treating themselves to a once-in-a-lifetime experience on a very special occasion. One couple couldn't have imagined they'd be celebrating their golden wedding anniversary and VE Day in the luxury of one of the world's greatest cruise liners.
I know that particularly at this time of the year, it's always the same with us, because we remember people who we knew who died in the war, gave their everything so that we may be as we are today. And it was a very wonderful feeling. And I think it was very overpowering in itself, because we couldn't really believe that the war was over, you know, and that everything there was perhaps going to return to normal. I think it was a moment of great joy as well as sadness, because obviously people had lost relatives, brothers, sisters or wives, husbands in the war, and it was those things that they were thinking about.
Such luxury was unimaginable to one little boy 50 years ago.
I joined the war as a child and bombed out 3 times. Knocked from pillar to post, evacuated, you name it. I mean, there's something to celebrate, you know? It's worth celebrating. 50 years, I think, after this, I can't see anything coming after this, really. 50 years is quite enough.
But old enemies are now friends in one great European family, in some cases quite literally.
I've got a German son-in-law, you know, and we're all one Europe now, aren't we? That's how we want to be, don't we, really? So I think it's nice to get on here and be all friends. So it should be, isn't it?
government seriously misread the mood of the nation with its original plans to commemorate D-Day. A year on, there was no such problem with the VE Day events, and after the weekend in Plymouth, everyone considered it a great success.
I think they had a day when they could feel the actual atmosphere of rejoicing at the end of the war, and they were also mindful of those that had died during the war. And I hope you think that the fireworks, particularly preceded by the speech by the Prime Minister of the day, actually did make that point quite poignantly. And we felt by the general atmosphere and the way that people behaved on the Hoe and the silence, you could hear a pin drop, about 100,000 people, totally silent, and then going on with the show and on the fireworks was really probably something that'll live with a lot of people for a very long time.
Rigidly enforced blackout to let the lights blaze out again.